Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm chalk painting this little jewelry box I got from Goodwill for a couple of dollars. I think it was like $3.99, $4.99. I can't read what that says. It has this dated kind of fretwork on the front, this little metal piece, glass. It's got a mirror on the inside and a little carousel thing. I'm going to take all that out and give it a quick clean with some super awesome cleaner just to make sure there's no grease or grime or residue or anything that would keep the paint from adhering. It has 3 regular drawers and then 1 drawer that has, you know, the little holders for the rings. You can see I've taken out the grapevine thing and the little carousel that holds the necklaces. And this is a nice size little jewelry box. I don't really get the whole area for the hanging necklaces, but it is what it is. This is scallion chalk paint from Waverly. And I'm just using this as a base coat. This is extremely bright for a chalk paint. And I've had this bottle for a while, so it's a little thicker than it probably should be, but I'm trying to get some texture on here, so I just slopped it all on there. So that's 1 coat. I'm just going to turn it over to get the underside of everything. I didn't know if I really wanted to paint inside those drawers, but I couldn't, that wasn't like a good stopping point. So I just went ahead and painted inside of there, and I was a little worried that it might cause the drawers to stick, but they were fine. Did I say that weird? Drawers? Drawers? Cubbies? See, I don't think Waverly makes this color anymore, but it is like a nice bright green. Alright, so that's all dry. And I'm going to go in with Bear chalk paint. This is the back to school color. And I'm using one of these. This is a little, these brushes. I don't know what these brushes are for from Dollar Tree. They're supposed to be like disposable. I don't, maybe like if you're applying glue to something, because they are just terrible. But yeah, I'm just kind of putting that on there. I think I eventually cover the whole thing, but I'm making sure that I'm making texture on this. Like, I'm not trying to get it on there smooth. That's why I'm using this crappy brush, and I'm just pouncing and stippling and getting some texture all over everything. And if you're looking for a chalk paint to do like a big project, the Bear chalk paint from Home Depot, really nice. I think I've used it in every chalk painting thing I've done recently. And like these colors end up being like green, yellow, like a scarlet, a really deep red, and then a kind of greeny blue. And it really doesn't matter what you put on here as long as you want to see those colors in the finished product. So I mean, if you don't like pink, don't put pink on there, because when we distress it, it's eventually going to come through, even if it's just a little bit. So just pick whatever colors you want, or if you're not picky, just put whatever you have on there. So see, this is all splotchy. It's very textured. This is Merlot from Waverly. This color was on clearance, so I don't know that they make this one either. And I'm going in again with the stabbing and the stippling and the pouncing. I'm going over the hinges and everything. And I like to go a little bit heavier on the outside of things. Like, I'm not hitting the middle panel too much. I think I eventually do, but making sure that that darker color is heavier around the outsides. And yeah, if you're thinking, wow, that looks like a mess, it is. That's what it's supposed to look like. And this had little metal door pulls. Drawer pulls, I don't know. Painted right over those. And because the chalk paint is thicker, it's easier to leave that texture behind. And it layers really nicely. So when you distress, everything kind of pops back out. Alright, this ended up being like no reason for me to do this. This is a peel and stick tile from Dollar Tree. I wanted to cover the mirror because I don't know why the mirror is there. Like this, do people like take a necklace out and then look at themselves with the rest of the necklaces hanging in front of the mirror to see how the necklace looks on them? I don't know. I wanted to cover it up. I thought because this paper is textured that once I painted it, you would be able to see the texture through it, but you can't see the texture. So it didn't need to be textured paper. It didn't need to be the peel and stick. I probably could have just painted over the mirror and been done with it, but I actually kind of like it before I paint it. So, you know, if you're looking for something to do with these incredibly expensive peel and stick tiles, I don't. Who would do anything with this besides these little projects? I don't know. Somebody would. So it wasn't long enough to do the whole thing, so I just cut it in 2 sections and just kind of lined them up on the inside. I think if you are buying this for a project, this is very sticky. Like it, not worth $1.25 for one. Like it's gotta be like an 8x8 tile, right? But like I felt really confident, especially sticking it to mirror, you know, to something so slick. All right, so that's what it looks like in there. And now I am just using a little box cutter to trim everything up. And I think if you wanted to use this, like it would be fine doing it just like this. If you had a box, like I know nobody's gonna have this exact jewelry box. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. You do you, I'll do me. Let's see. It looks like it's lined up nicely. You can't see where the seam is. But I was hoping that I could get the texture. So I'm gonna mix up a paint here. There's a color called Malachite from Waverly that they don't sell anymore. It is like my favorite. Like I'm obsessed with this color. I keep trying to recreate it because, of course, you know, I can't find it. They stopped selling it years ago. I had a jar that was all dried up, so I'm mixing some back to school. I think this is Ocean from Waverly. Just kind of get a green. It's supposed to be more green than blue. I don't know if I succeed in that. But it ends up being a pretty color anyway, so that's all that really matters, I guess. This is Agave, maybe? No, maybe Peacock? I wanted to leave this in just to show you how I mix colors, how I started out with the mustardy color and then added the blue to get to the green, and then I'm going to add some blue greens to get to the color I'm looking for. But I really like that kind of, I tell my mom all the time, like when I'm painting something, you know, she's like, oh, well, what color do you want it to be? And I'm like anything in the shade of like baby poop, like those are my favorite colors. You know, when you go to like Home Depot, I'm adding a little bit of scallion to this too now. When you go to Home Depot, they have like the little book of paints, and it's like the collection of reds or the collections of neutrals or whatever. Like I want a collection of just baby poop colors. So this is actually pretty close to the Malachite. I think the Malachite, the original paint, is maybe a little darker, but this got the job done. And I'm switching to a Wet n Wild blush brush. I love these brushes. They're $1.25 at Dollar Tree when you can find them. You can't, if you live by me, don't even bother looking for them because I own all of them. I've lost them all over my house, but I own them somewhere. I like these because they hold a lot of paint and they give you a pretty smooth finish. And not that I'm particularly looking for a smooth finish with this, because I'm just kind of going back and forth all over the place to build up the brush strokes, but if I wanted a smooth finish, I could get it with this brush. And they just hold a lot of paint, and yeah, they're easy to clean. If you mess one up, you know, you leave paint on it, it's not the end of the world, because it's a, you know, a little cheap brush, but a good quality cheap brush. So I'm just painting over the drawers. I think I eventually take them out and, you know, go in between and everything, but I'm trying to get a solid coat. Like, before everything was kind of splotchy. Now I want this, because this is our main color, I want this to completely cover everything else. Now, I am filming this voiceover at, or recording this voiceover. It is like 4 in the morning, because that's the only time it's ever quiet around my house, and I am barely keeping myself awake right now. To see the coverage on that is just really nice. And I mean, I spent $14 on a chalk paint brush, and I've definitely used this blush brush more often. I mean, if you're painting something big, like when I painted my dresser, like I could have done it with a blush brush, it just would have taken forever. But I definitely prefer the blush brush over those ones that are, you know, have like the really tightly packed bristles. All right, I am spraying the brush here, because I've already gone over that velvety part that's not velvet with some paint, and it needs to be watered. If you're using chalk paint to dye fabric or something like fabric, you need it to be really watered down so it kind of seeps in. So I'm taking the water bottle and I'm spraying the actual brush, not the, I'm not watering down the paint, I'm just spraying the brush. And over here I'm, you know, spraying the other side, and then I'm going to get some paint and just kind of let it seep in. But because you're not going to be touching this, like, you could just paint over it if you wanted to. And now that I have my full coverage coat, I'm just going on and stippling some more texture on. All right, time for distressing. I wish that I could give you guys like a how-to on this, but look at all the paint I messed up there. I think I eventually go back and touch that up, because that's not, I think this thing is sitting on my dresser right now, and it doesn't have that on there. I'm starting off with my highest grit sandpaper to smooth out what I've done. And I always want to start with the highest grit, because if I start off with something super coarse, I can't go back from that. Like, if I start off with, I think I end up with like a 60 grit. If I start off with that, it takes off a bunch of paint. If it takes off too much paint, I can't really go back and add all those layers. So I start off with something that is very high grit, and I'm just smoothing everything out, getting rid of some of that tooth, and I'll move up from there. So this is, I think this is 320, and the other side is 220. So I'm just kind of going along, and it's taking off what it's taking off, but it's not taking off much right now. It's mostly just giving kind of like a finish sand to this. Because as much as I like the texture, once it's distressed, I don't want like big globs of paint on here. So you can see some of the scallion coming through. All right, and this is a, I don't know, this is like the medium coarse one from Dollar Tree. I don't know if they actually say what like grit this is, but this one's a little lower grit, so it's a little rougher. And I'm mostly trying to concentrate on where the wear would be. Like say that, this was painted 100 years ago, like the edges would start chipping first, and around the door pulls and the hinges from opening and closing. So this is still not taking off a lot, but I'm trying to just gradually work my way up. And I want to shine those up a little bit, so I'm switching back to the higher grit to get the little door pull done. And then this is either 60 or 80. I think it's 60. You got to be very gentle with this, because you can strip all this paint off with, if you apply too much pressure just one time. But this is where you can really start to see all the other colors come through and all that texture getting knocked back. See? That the spots on there was where there was like a glob of the green paint. And there would be more wear around the bottom, so I'm going a little heavier down here. You can't really tell in the video, but there, it looks like there's the yellow, but some of that yellow it's got like a margin of the green around it, the scallion green, not the dark green we finished with. And there's a little bit, some of the Merlot color is shining through too. All right, now I'm going to do a little bit of wet distressing and dust removal. I find sometimes like wet distressing is more aggressive than actually sanding, because this paint is not cured. Like, it's dry, but it's not completely cured, so you're kind of wiping back some of the stuff. Now, if you want to distress, like when everything's fully cured, like you have to let this sit for a while. Like, I think I did all this in maybe 2 days, and the last coat, that green coat that went over the top, I let that sit for a while because I wanted that to cure a little bit. But if you paint, let it dry, and then immediately start distressing, you're going to take off a lot of the paint. So give it a couple of hours, let it cure. And you can see some of that is dust coming off, but a lot of that is the actual paint. So I'll sometimes use wet distressing when I've gotten it as like chippy as I want, and then this is just to refine things a little bit. I'm going in with the white wax. I hate this. I really do. It's just, it doesn't work the way wax should, because it should be a wax, and this is definitely like just a watered down, this is like a glaze more than an actual wax. So see, the drawers look really good. I was really happy with the way the drawers came out, because you can see the wood, you can see the red, you can see the green, you can see the yellow, and you can see that obviously the top color we used. So I'm just slapping it on there. I think what I do is, I put it on, go through the rest of the drawers, and then come back and wipe everything off. And you can use dark wax for this. I just used white because I was trying to, I wanted the white to kind of settle in the details at the bottom and around the top and the drawer pulls and stuff like that. And I didn't want to darken the green anymore, and dark wax would have done that. Just see that corner on that drawer, how you see the wood, you see the yellow, you see the scallion. And I think this is this towel might be a little damp, but it's probably, like just barely. And the longer you leave it sit on there, the harder it is to remove, but the more stays behind, like the more wax gets deposited. And you can even, when you have the wax on there, it reactivates the paint again. So if you want to scrub a little bit more to get back to more of the wood or one of the lower layers, you can do that too. There's no rules with this, guys. Like, just do it. It's gonna come out. If like you're trying to get this look, you're gonna get it eventually. I want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything on there for too long, because like if I leave the top and then go back and do all the rest of it, by the time I get back to wiping everything off, the top is going to be really hard to get that wax off. I just made air quotes, which you guys can't see, but you know. So I'm not really trying to alter the color of the paint here. I just want to protect it, and I want to get the white in those grooves. I'm gonna have to go check the back of that jewelry box and make sure that the scallion color is covered. So now I'm just kind of dry brushing right there to give it a little bit more white. And I'm mostly just doing that because I'm waiting for that the side of the box that I just painted to dry a little bit. And I think this is after everything's waxed at this point, and I'm just going back and adding a little bit more, and not really rubbing it off, just kind of dabbing it off some. And you can put this on, wipe it back, leave it for a day or two, and then come back with like a soft cloth and kind of buff it. It'll give you a little bit of a sheen to it, which I like, you know. It gives it a nicer finish. I've been using white wax a lot. I usually throw dark wax over everything because it makes everything look so much better, like more aged. Just I just think it looks better. But the white wax is, you know, does what it does. And I just use my finger there to really get into those grooves. And now my glass is going back in. Moving my drink. So yeah, that little the little grill or the fretwork or the grape thing, that was really, I think it was kind of attached to the it was attached to something, and I just clipped it off with my wire cutters. And then I'm snapping the carousel thing back on. I don't really like that. If I could have gotten it off, I would have, but I couldn't really get a thing in there, a screwdriver. So that's what it looks like. You can see the red, the wood, the yellow, the scallion. Wax is all in the grooves. And that still moves around. I don't know. You'd have to hang like the short, like you could only hang chokers in this thing because it's not very tall. There's my lights. There's the glass. I didn't bother cleaning very well, you know. Yeah, that was a fun little quick project. Here it was before. You can really see the whatever that grape thing is. And then afterwards, I mean, just removing that little metal piece really updated it. And some close-up so you can see the texture. And see those white spots in the middle. That's me going back to the raw wood, like removing the finish and everything. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Had fun. Sorry for the voiceover. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. for another video. Bye-bye.